In episode 13 of I Know a Guy, I sit down with Gastonia outfielder Jacob Robson. Come around the world with us as we learn about the eye of the tiger. Our guest today is from Windsor, Canada. Went to Mississippi State University, drafted by the Detroit Tigers in 2016, played in Major League Baseball with the Tigers in 2021. I know a guy, and his name is Jacob Robson. Jacob, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about you, Noah?
Doing well. So, Jacob, you haven't played yet this season. You've been with Gastonia the entire season, but haven't played yet, waiting on your work visa. Could you explain what's going on?
Yeah, well, I'm Canadian, and in order to work here, you need permission from the government. And, we applied for that shortly after I signed with the team in March. And sometimes government stuff just takes a while. And so that's sort of what we're experiencing now. It's not what anyone expected, but, I'm trying to deal with it the best I can and just stay ready so that when they do approve of the visa, I can get to work with the guys.
How are you doing that? How are you staying ready and prepared?
Yeah, it's been a challenge. I have never had so much time off. Maybe with the pandemic in 2020, that's like the closest I can think of. The only thing is all the other minor leaguers didn't play either. So it's been a challenge because I know everyone else plays and I can't, and my body is perfectly able to do that. So part of it is training, staying physically ready so that if I had to play tomorrow, I could. Working on my swing, that's a big part of my training regimen is my swing mechanics. And, the other things too, being able to sprint and making sure my arm's okay. Those things are good too, but the biggest thing has been my swing. A lot of attention to detail there. And, we're all human. We have to find some outlets outside of baseball. So I need to keep myself occupied. I've been reading a lot of books, going to the library here in Gastonia. That's been a nice thing for me to do, to pass the time and to learn a thing or two.
Any book recommendations?
Ooh, I just finished one. This is it's not like baseball. I don't really read baseball books. I try to get away and to be able to compartmentalize the two things. I just read a book by J.D. Salinger. He wrote Catcher in the Rye, and it's called Franny and Zoe. Awesome book. That's the best book I've read since being here, for sure.
Franny and Zoe.
That's right.
All right, everyone make sure to check it out. Jacob, how much live pitching have you faced? Or I guess when was the last time you faced live pitching?
The last time I faced live pitching was during our spring training. I haven't seen a live pitch since. I'm sure I could arrange to stand in on bullpens when pitchers are throwing. As you get older, you learn how to manage your career better and better. You learn what you like and what you don't like and what works for you. It doesn't do so much for me to be able to stand in there and see the shape of the pitch because there's not that element of competing, and I can't swing even if I wanted to. So being able to swing is, for me, it really, if I can't swing, it really takes away from the effectiveness of standing in there. So, I haven't seen any live pitching since spring training. I think what I've been doing now will help me be ready when the time comes more than just seeing live pitching occasionally. And at the same time, these guys on the team, they have to play in the season. They're not going to go out of their way to cater to me. So it's just one of those things. You have to do what you can.
Back on episode 1, you came on the podcast, you said you were obsessed with hitting. You used the word obsessed. You even had a bat in your hands for the episode. How hard is it, the fact that you can't swing, the fact that you can't go out there on the field with the guys every day? How difficult has it been?
Yeah, it's been very difficult, to be honest with you. It's, my life is pretty simple, and I'm grateful for that because of the way things have shaken out and the people in my life. Like, I get to play this game, and it's awesome. Like, I have so much gratitude. because I really love to play. Like I just straight up love to play, all the other stuff aside. And I'm not able to do that. So, and I have to watch these guys do it too. And there's a cool aspect of that. You get to learn things that you wouldn't otherwise. I mean, there's something about watching your own team and seeing how they behave in that setting and kind of their dynamics between each player. You can learn a lot just from watching. That being said, you can only watch so much baseball without before getting sick of it. So I have to sort of meter that. If I feel like it's just overkill, then I'll just like stop watching the game. But sometimes I'll check in and see how the guys are doing, especially with their at bats. I'm not really involved with the pitching side of it. Those guys I can't really fathom what they do because I throw like 64 from the outfield. But I pay attention to the hitters. There's a few hitters in our lineup that we've been all working together trying to improve our swings, and it's nice to have a little sense of community too. So having those guys has also helped me with this time of just not playing, being able to focus my energy on getting better with them and maybe even working with them and trying to shed whatever insight that I've gained through my career.
Have you found yourself being a better teammate or more focused on being a good teammate than you would if you were playing?
I think, yeah, there's definitely something to be said about that. Just putting my energy on other people and trying to be a servant. I mean, I think that's just a good moral virtue. When you feel like, your world's crashing down on you, making it about other people and not feeling sorry for yourself, that can get you through some tough times. So I'm trying to implement that during this time.
Jacob, you're from Canada. You have the nickname the Maple Hammer. When did you get that nickname?
I got that nickname when I was in university at Mississippi State. Our SID at the time, he just made it up. I don't even know, and it stuck. I had no involvement with it. Had never heard of it. I didn't particularly love it at the time. I didn't really want like the attention, I think, because I was just a young freshman. I think I was like maybe 17 years old as an incoming freshman when he made that nickname up. And yeah, but it's a cool thing. I mean, who am I to get in the way of that? It's like the fans like it, and it's a catchy thing, so all good.
Has it grown on you at all, or you still don't love it?
No, like I'm open to it for sure. Like it's not that I absolutely love it or hate it. I think it's a cool thing, especially for fans to be able to connect to the players through a cool name like that, especially a catchy one.
Now, you were drafted by the Padres in 2012, but you decided to attend Mississippi State instead. What went into that decision of, I guess, foregoing the opportunity to play for a minor league team and going to college instead of that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I wasn't drafted very high, so I figured if I went to a school, then I would get a lot better and be able to get drafted higher. Part of the reason that I wasn't drafted so high in high school was because I was so focused on probably going to school. I was not going to be a first-round pick or anything like that in high school. I was so raw. I was still learning the game. And, when I was 16 years old as a junior in high school, I was cut from my Windsor travel ball team. And so I thought, well, if I can't make this team, then I probably don't have a future in this game. I'm probably not going to play past high school. And an incredible sequence of events happened after that, and I wound up on the junior national team, the 18 and under team, as a 16-year-old. And I started to wrap my mind around maybe I can go play in college. And the coaches that I had in my life at the time, they were advising me. And, we had no clue. My dad never played baseball. And, my parents, we didn't really know about the NCAA and what schools were good and where I fit in. I just always thought I wouldn't be able to measure up against the kids who play all year round, because I would only play like 30 games a year when I was growing up. The rest of the time I spent on the ice or doing another sport. So, once they told me realistically, you can not only play in college, you can play professionally, I decided that's what I would do with my life, when I was 16. So we had to learn all that process about, like I said, which schools. I had never heard of Mississippi State. I had no idea what it was. And we're on the border of Detroit. Windsor is on the border of Detroit, so we knew about University of Michigan and Michigan State and those schools like that, but we didn't know just how many schools and how many different options we had. So I started getting recruited little by little by all these colleges, and then by the end of my high school career, I was getting recruited by the best of the best, which is really fortunate. Part of that was because I was in front of the right eyes, and part of it was because I had awesome people guiding me, and just that combination of those two plus me improving at the right time, I was able to sort of to peak. I mean, not peak, but I was able to sort of be good enough to where people wanted me. And being able to get an education is an incredible thing. Both my parents they value that so much, and my whole family does. So I figured, why not? I can go get an education and then keep pursuing this baseball thing. There's a lot of good players that come out of these powerhouse schools like Mississippi State. So I thought I'll take my chances and be able to hopefully get drafted higher by the time I'm done there. And if I don't, then it just wasn't meant to be. But that was my mentality, and ended up working out.
Certainly did. You were drafted by the Tigers in 2016, drafted a lot higher than you were drafted back in 2012. Was it nice for you playing for an organization near home? You talked about how Detroit is right near Windsor. So you also played for Erie, West Michigan in the minor leagues, obviously Detroit in the big leagues. So was it nice playing near home for you?
Yeah, well, the coolest thing about the whole thing was, I was a Tiger fan. I grew up going to those games at Comerica Park and watching them on TV as much as I could. I remember, my grandpa, my mom's dad, he's passed away now, but he was one of my biggest mentors in my life. And we would sit and watch these big league games on TV, in his like front room. That was like a big pillar of my childhood, was watching those games. And when I wasn't playing a sport or doing school stuff as a kid, I was usually watching with him. And he would say things like, look at how this guy, look at what he's doing on deck. Does he have a weight on his bat? Is he timing up the pitcher? So he taught me from a young age to try and pick up on these professionals and how they go about their business, because just like a doctor or a lawyer, baseball players are professionals at what they do. And, they do play a game, but they get paid to do it. So they might as well, we might as well, if we want to do it, try and copy them or at least learn something from them. So I was doing that from a very young age, and he would encourage me. He would say things like, you can do that if you want. You can play with them if you want to one day. And I did. So that part was really cool, just coming full circle in 2021, because I remember being in the stands watching those guys warm up and play catch. And, when I was really young, I had these thoughts going through my head. How can they throw it right to the glove every time? And, just from when they're warming up, I was amazed by them. And it was cool to be on the other side of that, and just going back, to my childhood with my grandpa. That was an awesome thing. Most of my career was spent in the minor leagues, and it wasn't in Detroit, but it was close enough to Ontario to where my parents could come shoot over to the games, especially when I was in Toledo. Toledo in AAA, where the Tigers AAA team is like literally an hour from my parents' house. So my dad, he would come after work. He would just drive down to Toledo, watch me play. We wouldn't even really chat much. He would just, if the game was lopsided, he would be in the outfield, and I would see him, and he would just wave like, I'm going home. So he was able to come see me quite often. And, my parents, I'm very grateful for both of them, for my whole family, that they've supported me through this whole thing.
As a Tigers fan, did the fan in you come out when you met Miguel Cabrera for the first time?
I think it was more, I met him when I was in the minors, and, at least with Detroit when I was coming up, it was very, the minor league side and the major league side of that complex in Lakeland, is very separated. And so I don't know if they did that on purpose or that's just the way it went. But those big leaguers were really put on a pedestal, and there was a lot of like, I wonder what they're doing over there. What does their locker room look like, when I was coming up? And with a guy like Miguel Cabrera, he would come into the weight room at the same time as the minor leaguers, and he would be interacting with the guys, especially the Latino guys. He's such a great role model for them, and the cool thing about him is he doesn't really care about your status, about how good you are at the game. He treats people really well. And so when I was interacting with him, it was sort of in that setting, in the weight room, just in passing. And then I got to have some spring trainings with him. And, it really, not to romanticize these guys and these baseball players, but there is something about these iconic baseball players, and they have a presence. When they walk into the room, it changes. Their energy changes because these people are really just so special. And Miguel is one of those people. He's just, it's hard to describe unless you're around him. And I've been around, lucky enough to be around some other awesome legendary players, and they share something similar. So that was what I remembered, was like, whoa, like, this is Miggy. And the baseball side, getting to be around him, watch him take batting practice, watch him take ground balls, even running the bases, was just a treat because he's so skilled. And, these guys are better than most people think they are at the game. With a guy like him, he was really just a little kid in a grown man's body, giant body, and he was doing it for fun. And he was really just playing. A lot of people, when they turn professionally, they turn pro as a baseball player, you want to do your best. You want to be as good as you can be. You want to be better than the next guy. Some people forget about that element of play. When the game starts, you play the game. Like, you work and you practice before the game and after the game. But when the game starts, you're playing. You're not working. And one of my big takeaways from being around Miggy was his element of play. He was always playing. And that right there is just a huge inspiration.
You were in AAA in 2018 and 2019, reached the majors in 2021. What was the biggest surprise for you when you reached MLB?
Surprise. Well, first of all, I want to say I was there. I wasn't there very long. So, I don't have so much to report on. But, I would say everything before and after the game is vastly different.
How so?
Than in the minor leagues. You're treated like royalty. I mean, you're flying on a private jet to all these incredible cities in the U.S. and one in Canada, Toronto. The facilities are unbelievable. Every hotel you stay at is the best hotel in town. Each team has private chefs. The spread is like the best I had ever had, maybe the best I'll ever have. So awesome. You get so many options of food. It's all pretty, they do a good job of trying to make it all like good ingredients, fresh, healthy. And obviously they have some stuff just there for taste too. If they don't have something and you want it, they'll go get it. And that goes across the board. If you need something from the clubby, if you need something from the trainer, if you need something from the chef, they'll go do it for you. They're waiting on you hand and foot, which is like, in the minor leagues, it is not like that. In the minor leagues, you're getting peanut butter and jelly, you're getting pulled pork, mac and cheese that's been sitting there for a couple days. So that was the biggest thing I noticed, was just the treatment of the players before and after the game. This can also contribute to my answer. It wasn't so much of a surprise, it's just I felt like I maybe forgot about this part. when the game starts, it's the same. When the game starts, it's the same as when I was 12. Because at the end of the day, no matter what, if you're in the big leagues, if there's 50,000 people or if there's nobody, or if we're here, or if I'm on some backfield, there's a pitcher on the mound and he's got to throw it over the plate and the hitters try and hit it. I mean, that's what the game is. So once the game started for me, I was like, oh, I know what to do. But there's a whole lot of, I don't want to say fairy dust, but there's a whole lot of just incredible treatment of the players, especially compared to the minor leagues.
We have a segment on this podcast called Cool Connections. Obviously, you already talked about your connection with Miguel Cabrera. Is there another player in the Tigers organization or really anywhere else that you've played that you've connected with that may be a household name?
Yes. Nick Castellanos. Castellanos obviously came up with the Tigers. He's now on the Phillies. He's an awesome player. Same thing how I mentioned the separation between the minor league side and the big league side. When Nick was a young star kind of preparing to be the face of the Tigers, I was in the minor leagues like my first year or something, second year. And at the time I was like really into yoga. I was doing like a yoga practice and I was just doing it in the weight room, by myself in like an area that wasn't bothering anyone. And Nick would come in, same thing, when the minor leaguers were in there, and he would chat with the guys and interact, and he really doesn't care. He does not care if you're a Hall of Famer or if you're a minor leaguer or if you're some fan. He treated, from what I saw, he treated everyone the same, and that's sort of his outlook. And for some reason, he was really interested in what I was doing with the yoga stuff. He pulled me aside, and he was talking to me about it. He's asking me about it, and he asked me to teach him. And I was like, yeah, okay. He's like, can you show up tomorrow at 6? I was like, yeah. And I thought it was a little bit weird. I thought maybe I was stepping on people's toes, whatever. Sure enough, the next day, I show up at 6, and he's got like 2 yoga mats waiting. He's got a espresso for me from the big league side. We don't get coffee. We don't get anything like that on the minor league side of the clubhouse, of the facility. And he's waiting for me. He's showing me just as much respect as you would show a Hall of Famer. And that was really cool. I taught him what I knew. I mean, I don't even do yoga anymore, but I taught him what I knew. And we connected, we became friends. It started out just with the yoga stuff, and then it just sort of became, we started talking about life. And it was really cool to be able to connect with someone like that. You never know what someone's life is really like. I mean, everyone has problems, no matter what. So it was cool to see that human side of him, even though most people just see him as this stud baseball player. And, he at the time he was really into like the Zen stuff. He was studying Zen, and he would try to maybe put some of that knowledge onto me at the time, and I think that I didn't understand it at the time as much as later. Later I had some realizations and hit him back up and was like, dude, thank you so much for it's making more sense now. So it was cool to be able to have a relationship with a guy like that.
I asked you a very tough question on episode 1. I said, if you had to choose one player to take a free hitting lesson from, who would you choose, Joey Votto or Miguel Cabrera? You chose Joey Votto. What questions do you think you would ask Joey?
How was he so good in like 2017? He was unbelievable. It wouldn't be so much me asking. I think it would be more just me letting him talk. When a guy who's so good starts talking, you listen. I had a moment, we may get to talking about the WBC eventually, but Freddie Freeman was on that team, and there was a moment when we were hitting in the cages and he started talking, and I just stopped what I was doing and walked over because I'm like, you have to listen. So it would be more of, I think, that sort of dynamic. Joey Votto seems like a really smart guy, and that's what I hear. He's really sharp. And so I'm sure he's able to articulate his thoughts really well. So I would just be interested to hear what he has to say in general about hitting, because obviously been so good for so long. So, and a Canadian legend.
Let's talk about the Let's talk about the WBC. So 2023, you played for Team Canada, and also your exact quote about Freddie Freeman was, "You don't even have to talk to him to learn." You said that to John Morosi after your 18-8 win over Great Britain.
That's right.
How was the experience?
Incredible. You know, being able to represent your country in general is an amazing feeling. There's this feeling that's not the same as professional baseball. You know, as a professional, if you're a baseball player, the end goal is to win. You want to win with your team. You want to help your team win and do what you can. Everything is enhanced when that element of your country is there, you know. And I'm so fortunate that I've been able to do it with the junior team from when I was 16 and the senior team. You know, we've played in so many awesome places, played against all these different countries, and they're doing the same thing. I mean, they're playing for the people of their country. And so that the competitiveness is enhanced. And the WBC is the biggest of all of those stages. And so there was a lot of attention on that tournament. It was such an entertaining tournament. I would say probably the most entertaining one to date. So watching the whole thing unfold, obviously we didn't make it as far as some other countries, but it was really, really entertaining once we were out of the tournament to watch. So I'm sure while we were playing, we contributed to that.
Well, I was going to say, you didn't make it far, but you helped Team Canada get its first win in 10 years with that 10-run win over Great Britain. How did that feel to help out your country get its first win in a decade?
Yeah, it was sweet. It was sweet. Being in company with some of those awesome players and, you know, not being in affiliated ball anymore and still being asked and trusted by the staff to come in and help the team was a really cool feeling, knowing that, you know, I'm always confident in myself. I know that I'm good at what I do, but it was cool to get the recognition from the staff to be able to jump in this tournament, you know. Yeah, the first win, I didn't even know it was the first win at the time. You know, it was just, we're just trying to win that game. And I think that's how you have to approach any tournament. But yeah, we learned after it was like the first win. It was like, okay, sweet, awesome.
You were great in the WBC. In 4 games, you went 5 for 12. That's a .417 batting average. 1 dotted an OPS, an RBI, 1 phenomenal jumping catch in left field up against the wall. You're also the only player on the team to reach 2 stolen bases. So I have a trivia question for you. There are only 2 players on Team Canada with a higher batting average and OPS than you. Do you know who they are?
In that tournament?
In the tournament. In the 4 games.
Tyler O'Neill?
Yep. Tyler O'Neill hit .615, 1.491 OPS.
Yeah, I remember that first game. I was like, oh, I've had a pretty good game. And then I was like, wait, I think O'Neill got a hit every time he got up to the plate. So he kind of outshone me there. O'Neill, Eddie Julian?
Yep.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Well, Jacob, not only were you great in the 2023 WBC, you've really been great in your entire 11 years in professional baseball. A career .382 on-base percentage. Last year was .398. You have a great eye, phenomenal patience at the plate. How have you really trained yourself to have great plate discipline?
Never really swung the bat much, honestly, from when I was young. I don't know. I always thought you can take a strike. I mean, how do I say this? I feel like this is coming out wrong. If I take a strike, I still have more chances. So, you know, maybe some of that's to a fault. I think that there have been times in my career where I could have been more aggressive, but very rarely have I been too aggressive. I think that a big part of my game is making sure the pitcher knows, like, he's got to throw it over the plate. I mean, I don't want to do him any favors. It's really hard to hit the ball as it is, even if it's a strike, because pitchers are so good now, especially now. They're only getting better. There's so much movement on the ball. A lot of pitches look the same. They start out the same. And so I would rather him throw a strike and then have to do it again than get myself out, or to chase a pitch out of the zone. And another thing is, from when I was young, I was always so small. I mean, I'm not big now, especially for a baseball player, but I was always the smallest on my team. And so I thought, I'm not going to hit it over anyone's head. So the more I can get on first base for free, the better. And so I would always look for things like bunting and walking, things like that, to try and to get a free pass so that I can use my speed. That was one thing too. When I was 16, my speed was probably the thing that carried me. That's like the reason why I continued to play. If I wasn't as fast as I was, then I didn't really profile as someone who was going to play at a super high level. So my coaches really, really encourage you need to use your speed. You need to use your speed as much as you can, and part of that is getting a free pass and walking. So I take pride in walking, and it's a lot easier to not swing than to actually hit the ball, because the cool thing about baseball is, like, no matter how hard you try, you're just probably not going to hit it, even if you're awesome, even if you're Castellanos or Cabrera, like, you're probably not going to get a hit. And I think that's honestly a bit of a poetic part about baseball, is like, it's a losing battle, and so why not take something for free that requires less effort? Just wait and don't swing.
Not everybody has that discipline, though.
True. Yeah, I think part of that is people are very eager and they want to hit the ball a mile. Good things to remind yourself of as a hitter is the ball's going to get to you, and you don't have to swing, even if it's a good pitch. I mean, you want to be ready for every pitch, because sometimes you only get one good pitch. So you want to be able to capitalize on that. But the other side of that coin is, like, you have the option not to swing. If you don't feel good, if you don't feel like you're going to take a good swing, why do it? If you're just going to roll it over or pop it up or miss it, there's no point in swinging for swinging's sake. I like to try and make the most out of each time I swing the bat.
As if playing in the World Baseball Classic wasn't cool enough, you were drafted by the Mumbai Cobras of the Baseball United League in October. This is the first professional baseball league focused on the Middle East and Indian subcontinent. How do you hear of this league beginning?
I think a buddy of mine, I saw something on social media about a buddy of mine going, and I hit him up and I was like, what is this? And he was like, I don't even really know. Do you want the contact for it? And I was like, yeah. And, I've been fortunate enough to travel to so many cool places through baseball, and I figured I might as well do this. I mean, I would have no other reason to go to that part of the world. It's kind of expensive to get over there, and have a good time for leisure. So I'm like, I might as well try and pursue this, or at least see what it's all about. And the contact that I reached out to was like, immediately he was like, yeah, we would love to have you. So I was like, I don't even know what this is, but I'm in. And they drafted teams. The 4 teams are throughout the Middle East, and the team I got drafted by is in India, but the games don't take place there, at least not yet. I think maybe they want to expand eventually into the rest of the Middle East, but as of now, they're going to be in Dubai. And where I went in November, this past November, was Dubai. So those games we played were only there. But I think the people over there, the higher ups, I don't even know, government officials or whomever, they're more interested in baseball than they've ever been. And I think that was the mission of Baseball United. That's what the organization's called. They wanted to show that part of the world baseball. A big part of Dubai is it was such an interesting experience over there. getting to see how people live their life. A big part of Dubai is events. You know, people who live in Dubai, they want to go to an event. And this is just another one of those things. And it's a really cool, unique thing. You know, the people from that part of the world don't really know anything about baseball. So I think it appeals to them, and who knows what the future holds with them. But, you know, I hope that I'm included in their future events. I mean, we had a blast last time.
So what's the update in terms of playing? Are you going back there February?
Yeah, so they reached out to me. I think they reached out to Wiley also. Wiley was supposed to be included in the first trip, but they had to, honestly, because of like the Gaza stuff, they like pushed back the date, and then they cut the rosters, and so he wasn't able to go to that one. But I think Wiley's going to come with me in February. They're going to do another, week-long or 10-day thing in Feb. It's they're calling it like a showcase. It'll just be some exhibition games. So hopefully we can both go, because we've been we've played together a lot in the recent past. So it'd be cool to have him there.
This league is a big deal. I mean, the ownership group includes Robinson Cano, Ryan Howard, Ronald Acuna Jr., Mariano Rivera, Adrian Beltre, King Felix. How cool is it hearing all those people be a part of the ownership group?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like a huge asset of theirs. The business side, the investors, the entrepreneur guys were very smart in getting those players involved, because there's nothing worse than being involved with something baseball-wise when you just have the feeling like people who are running it don't understand what it's like to be a player. Having the player element, in that, especially when they're making decisions, the entrepreneur side, Cash, he's the guy who founded the whole thing. He's so open in speaking with those players when he's making decisions, and that goes a long way. That was something that I was really, really impressed by. Just, there's so many little tedious aspects of putting on an event like that, and you have to cater to the players. And they did a really, really good job of catering to us, because we all came back like we didn't want to leave. And I mean, I can't say enough about how awesome it was and how well they treated us. And I know it's only going to be better. So a big part of that is because they have those players on their side.
Jacob, you also played in Australia 2022-23 season. You talked on episode 1 about how you would love traveling the world. What are your takeaways? All these different places, the WBC, Mumbai, Australia. What are your takeaways from playing baseball all over the world?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what I was talking about with Detroit. When the game starts, it's the same. You know what to do. And all the other stuff is just such a cool, unique learning experience. Being able to learn how other people live their life and how life is in other parts of the world has just given me so much perspective on my life. And, a really cool thing that I like to do is I like to try and integrate myself into other people's cultures and try and become a local, at least learn what it's like to be a local. I've gotten to play, I've done winter ball 5 times, 2 in Dominican and 3 in Australia. So yeah, the baseball side of it is great, because like I know what to do. Like that's, it's my thing. Not out of my element there at all. But before and after the game and before and after practice, being able to explore and see how people, other walks of life, do their thing is just such a cool gift. And not that many people out there can experience it, and especially not that many baseball players. So many people, when you think of being a baseball player, you think the big leagues are bust. But as you get older and as you continue your professional career, you learn there's a lot of opportunities elsewhere that aren't just in the big leagues, and you can still pursue your best self as a player no matter where you are. So that's kind of my perspective, is like I'm doing my best whether I'm in the big leagues, indie ball, Australia, Dominican Republic, it doesn't matter.
What's the goal for you while you're here with Gastonia?
The same goal as it would be as if I were in the big leagues. I just want to be as good of a player as I can be. And while doing that, I want to, impact other people if I can, and, there is a certain platform that professional baseball players have. If you can, even if it's just making a kid's day in the stands, even if it's just conducting yourself properly, if you fail, being a good role model, things like that. I remember when I was young seeing someone slam their bat, and it's not that I've never done that. If you haven't done that in your career, you probably haven't played long enough. But seeing someone keep their composure and just being like a stand-up person in the heat of the moment, in the heat of their own failure, is a really cool thing. And so, a lot of players, I think some players take that for granted as like their platform and the effect they can have on someone else, even if it's just a little kid in the stands. They see you strike out and they see you come back into the dugout, calmly put your bat down and pick your glove up and go to your position. I mean, that says a lot, and it might change the way they they behave on the field too.
Well, Jacob, best of luck the rest of the season. Hopefully everything with the visa works out. And thanks so much for hopping on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.